morning.
Well, one thing, I won't lose my papers because I speak from my heart, my new heart. Like I said, I'm from Butler, Pennsylvania, right down the road here. I was transplanted on April Fool's Day 2011. I'm 6 years out and doing really great. So to tell you my journey has been really awesome. I'll tell you a little bit how I got sick. They said I caught the common cold or I could have had the walking pneumonia. They're not really sure what caused it. It affected my heart. Cardiomyopathy is what I end up with, the swelling of the heart. The doctor said when they took my heart out, it was about the size of my face. That's how swelled up it was. It only was working 8%. My new heart's working 65%. So it's a big difference there. And my journey really began when I got down to Pittsburgh, and I waited 4 years for my heart on the list. And as I was doing that, I got to know a lot of the people, and my coordinator says, "You know what, Mel, you're starting to break records here." And I says, "How's that?" And she says, "Well, you're the longest one that ever had to wait for a heart." I said, "You know what?" I said, "When I get here, I'll show you guys records." So the fourth year out, my heart really started not working in that, and I ended up down there in the getting heart cath done, and the doctor kept saying, do it again, and I'm laying there and I think, boy, am I in trouble. So I ended up with a PICC line, which is they put a line into my heart and pumping medicine directly into me. I had that for 2 weeks, and I was sitting ready to go down to Pittsburgh to get it checked, and I got this phone call saying, "Mr. Protzman, or Mel, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm sitting here getting ready to come down to have my PICC line checked." She said, "How would you like to get your heart today?" And I sat back and I said, "Okay, what are you trying to do, give me a heart attack?" So I packed everything up and down I went. So as we were waiting, it was around 9 o'clock when they took me down to the room, and I said something to her about these records and that. I said, "Well, here we go." I said, "I'm going to start showing you guys some records." And little did I know it, I went down at 9 o'clock, and they told my family it was a 5 to 10 hour operation. Well, as I was coming out of the anesthesia the following day, my daughter says, "Dad, you're breaking records." And I says, "How's that?" And she says, "The doctor said I gave him the largest heart he ever took out." I said, "Well, that ain't the greatest record to break, but it's a record, right?" And my other daughter says, "Yeah, Dad," she said, "you scared us too." Like I said, it was a 5 to 10 hour operation, and I was in and out in 3.5 hours. So I think I still hold them two records as far as the largest heart, and I was only in the OR for 3.5 hours. So as the nurse came in that Saturday, not wearing any luck, and 24 hours out, they come in, they pulled some lines out that were into my heart. So I'm thinking about these records, and I looked over and I said, "How far does your patients ever walk from a transplant?" And she said, They don't want to." And I says, "Get me out of bed." I said, "I want to walk out and look out over Pittsburgh." So it was like the next day I got up and I walked like 25 yards, looked out over Pittsburgh, and it's been, what a journey, you know. So I kept doing things to improve, showed the staff how I appreciated this transplant, to get the second chance of life. So I went down, it was 6 weeks. The doctor came in, I said, "Hey doc, I heard that the record was 8 days in and out of the hospital." And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Can you get me out in 7 to break your record?" And he come back and he said, "Mel, I can't do it. There's too much stuff to do." He said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll let you tie the record." So I was out of the hospital in 8 days. And the 9th day I started walking at home, and I caught wind that they were having a heart walk down there. So it was 6 weeks later. I got down to the heart walk, and my doctors were there and said, "Boy, I'm glad you're here, you know, have a seat." we're going to take this 2-mile walk, and I want you to meet some people that's come on the list and everything and show them how well you're doing. I says, I'm going with you. So it was 6 weeks after I was out of the hospital, I walked 2 miles with my doctors. So I really took this gift as an encouragement. So to make this little, it was 13 weeks I was at home. I live on a farm out here over in Butler, and I come up from working on down around my tractor shed. I come up, I look down the phone, it's blinking, I hit the button, and it comes on. My answer machine says, Mr. Protzman, I need to talk to you. I think you have my son's heart. And I just like sat down and I said, wow, you know, what do I do here? And I picked the phone up, I tried calling the person back, I didn't get to talk to her. I tried for a couple days later, I couldn't get to talk to her. She wasn't picking up. And what do I do? So I end up calling Core, told them my story, told them I wanted to be a volunteer, and then I started telling her about this phone call, and she just couldn't believe it. And I said, what do I do? And she said, well, Mel, make sure you got the right people and everything. And I said, well, this lady's reaching out to me. I said, I got to do something. But so I kind of left it go, and they called me back and said they do want to meet you. And I said, do I have the right person? She said, I can't tell you. And I said, I can live with that. Well, I couldn't. So I figured if I could figure out how this person got my number, maybe I'll find out that this person's the right person, that I have her son's heart. And I started asking my one daughter some questions and that, and she started telling me some things, and I started putting things together. So I said, so in other words, my cousin knows a little bit about this. And she said, yeah. So I called her, and she said, well, Mel, since you're here, and she said, I was at Brian's funeral, and I went up to her, which her name is Mary Grace, and said, Mary Grace, I think my cousin got your son's heart. And that's how she got my phone number. So from that day, then I'm sitting there, you know, and Core set up a meeting time, and then I was going to go down and meet her. And I don't know what, the phone was blinking again. I hit the button, and it was some about insurance, and I never erased that message from her. And boy, I just like sat down and I said, you know what, tonight's tonight. So I went up in my room, I sat there, I said, what if she answers, what do I say to her? Because now I know I have her son's heart. And I said, you know what, Mel, whatever comes out of my mouth, so be it. And I picked the phone up, I called her, she answered. Of course, we cried, and I cried, she cried, you know, and she was telling me who Brian was. And well, it ended up, that was a 4-hour conversation that night on the phone. So I went down and met her. Of course, we hugged and cried. She gave me an album of Brian and went through it page by page, picture by picture, explaining the pictures and who Brian was. And she looks up at me and she said, I don't want my son forgotten. And I guess that's what drives me to do what I like to do. And I told her that I would, and she looked up, she said, can I listen to my son's heart? And I just took my shirt, opened up my shirt. She listened to her son's heart, and we got along real good. And she said, I'm going to come out and spend the day with you. So I think it was maybe 4 weeks later, she come out and spent the whole day with me. I got to know who Brian was, and she was sitting there, and I said, where did you work at? And she said, well, I'm at John Hawkins getting my master's degree. I said, that's pretty cool. And I said, what do you do down there? She said, I run 22, 23 operating rooms. We're just getting ready to put transplant arms on a gentleman from the service. And I said, so you've been in the transplant business for a long time? And she said, yeah. I said, well, when did you leave Allegheny General? And she said, in 2010. Well, I got my heart in 2011. And she kept talking. I'm looking at her, and I'm thinking, well, who'd you work for down there? And she says, she looked up at me, she said, I worked in the operating room under Dr. Bailey. And I just like, I knew it, you know. I says, well, that's who put my heart in. And she said, yeah. And I said, so that night in the OR, everybody knew whose son I was getting. She said, yeah. And I said, boy, I must have got the VIP treatment. So that's pretty much the story, so don't take all your time up. What Jim's people do is amazing. I mean, you helped me make who I am. That's why I'm here, is your medical experience in that, and you ought to feel honored. I thank you.